So I don't know how to talk about this because when this was posted, it sent shockwaves through the entirety of the internet and then sent shockwaves through the MAGA sphere. And since then, it seemed like kind of like an all hands on deck, just full boat evac when it comes to this topic. And what I mean by that is it seems like everybody whose job it is to defend Trump, and that's their life's purpose, is getting on life rafts and running away from the Epstein topic as fast as possible. And for anybody who actually cared to get to the bottom of who was Jeffrey Epstein servicing, did he have a client list? Who was his clientele? Those people who went on him went with him onto that plane, what were they doing? Was he servicing high profile politicians, Democrat or Republican? Was he servicing in any way the intelligence networks of a foreign power or our own? Was he whatever it was? The people who want to know, they're left either wondering what's going on or faced with the dilemma that they've been fooled, and that Donald Trump and the people around him, no matter what Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, or any of these people did say, they are not going to stick out their neck to get those documents out there. And the Epstein Files, from Trump's perspective, is under lock and key, and it's better if you all forgot about it because the Democrats did Epstein. They made it all up. Yes, that's the story, that the Epstein file were fake things created by Clinton and Obama and Biden, all of them, in fact. And he can't show that. He hasn't proved that in any way, but they did. And so just forget about Epstein. And that sounds too on the nose to be believed, but let's read this giant paragraph post and try to get to the bottom of it, because it is a firecracker. What's going on with my boys, and in some cases, gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team. By the way, the reason people are going against Pam Bondi is that the divide right now is between Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, especially Dan Bongino, on how this rollout of the Epstein information has been handled. The release of the footage that Kash Patel said would be raw and unedited and would come with no problems. Turns out it does look like it's not the raw file. It looks like it was, according to the metadata, edited in Adobe Premiere, and there's time in the security cam footage that is just plainly missing. You can see that the counter on the bottom of the screen literally just jump time. And there's a bunch of little things like that, changes in the story about Epstein, and the claim, of course, from Pam Bondi that she had the Epstein files on her desk, to the new claim from the memo that there are no Epstein files to begin with. There is no Epstein client list. There is no Epstein list on her desk like she claimed. And so that seems to be where a lot of the divide is right now. And Pam Bondi, for those who are trying to reconcile both being a hardcore Trump supporter and wanting to know what's the truth about Epstein, Pam Bondi seems to be the emotional punching bag being used by the movement right now to take out their rage instead of, the person where the buck stops and the person with the ultimate authority and whether this goes in and out, and not the fall gal. I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration. The talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein, over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who con the world with Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more? Now, number one, this isn't true. In fact, some of those files were written under in 2018, 2019, 2020, right? So the idea that all of these Epstein files were even created by Obama, crooked Hillary, Brennan, Biden, whoever, is not true. But secondly, if it was, then release it and show their manipulation. Show hey, look here, Obama lied. Look here, Hillary lied. Here is evidence of the weaponization of our Justice Department that we've talked about for so long that we haven't been able to prove very strongly. So we've decided that we're gonna hyperfixate on the auto pen, which is the main thing that all those who are trying to shift focus away from this are talking about right now. Auto pen. Oh my God, the auto pen. My God. Let's keep going. But again, no evidence that Biden, Obama, Hillary, Brennan, or all these other people, that they manufactured these documents, that they, put a bunch of lies in them. He provides no evidence. And from we are going to release the Epstein Files to Epstein Files. You mean the Obama files? You don't need to learn about those. It was too on the nose for everyone to deal with. Some dealt with it, took it on the chin, and just kept going. Some in a very gross way. But this is just too on the nose to expect no backlash, to expect no anger, to expect no, how could you do this to the movement that was meant to drain the swamp? Stop protecting the swamp. They created the Epstein Files, just like they created. So the Epstein Files were created by Hillary. Never heard this before? Never heard this from Trump before? Well, the reason you might not have heard this before is because Fox News cut out this information from their interview with Donald Trump, and you could only find it on the extended interview. Here is some footage from, even though on other occasions,
Dylan,
Donald Trump said he would release the Epstein Files.
Tiger that Russia has proven to be?
Thank you, David, for the $20. Dylan, do you think China is the paper tiger? My gosh, what an interruption. 1 second. Let me pause this, and I'll try to answer that question, and then we'll return to what I was doing. Give Danabo a lot more work. Thank you for the $20, David. Dylan, do you think China is the paper tiger that Russia has proven to be? It's hard to say because Russia hasn't fought like a ground war since Vietnam. So it's really hard to say, but I don't think so. I think their production capacity is much more immense. I think that they have a lot more wealth to pull from. They have a larger force, and they have yet to show the failings that the Russian army has. That doesn't mean that they won't show any failings, but they haven't shown the Russian army's failings. They also haven't had to engage in large-scale warfare and gain the experience that the Russians have gained. But I don't think that they're a paper tiger. They have problems. They're not invincible. An invasion of Taiwan is not certain. But I don't think that you could say that they are a paper tiger. But it won't really truly be known until you see their military force in action for the first time this century. Thank you for the $20. Now back to Epstein. Now, while hearing that type of talk from Donald Trump might come as surprising, and I understand that, the reason why it comes as surprising is because they specifically edited this out of Donald Trump's campaign. They tried to stop this statement from Trump from getting out, because on the campaign trail, he would say, sure, I'll release the Epstein Files, but he would always say it less energetically than the rest of the crowd. And there was at least one occasion during an interview on Fox News where he kind of hinted that he didn't really want to release the files because he thought that there was a bunch of phony stuff in it. Donald Trump, of course, had a personal friendship with Jeffrey Epstein during his time as a New York businessman.
The FBI, all those institutions.
You're right.
Some people think that one way to build trust is to declassify things that everyone's talking about. I know you talked earlier about, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. So if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Yeah. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least...
Do you think that would restore trust? help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others. Certainly about the way he died. It would be interesting to find out what happened there, because that was a weird situation, and the cameras didn't happen to be working, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I'd go a long way toward that one. The other stuff I would definitely do the January 6th, because, beyond all of them. Because what happened, how about the Unselect Committee? They had meetings, you know.
Well, I don't know about that, about the most notorious sex criminal in American history. But how about we, those, the prosecution of the J6 protesters? We can look into that. So Trump saying like, oh, the Epstein files, you mean the Hillary files? He never said it this explicitly. He once referenced it as kind of phony stuff. This is the first time he's gone out and publicly made the connection. The Epstein files, you don't want to see them because they were made up by the Democrats and the losers. And that right there, I don't think will be taken well, and I know hasn't been taken well. And going after that and just referencing a bunch of your other, scandals, your other confrontations, is not an answer as to not releasing it. It'd be like Nixon being like, "You want me to release the tapes? Vietnam War. And just throwing out like different. That's not a response. They created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Christopher Steele dossier, and they used on me. And now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Are you asking about the Epstein files? You're not my friend. Why didn't those radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? They got every excuse in the world not to release the Epstein. What? Pass the buck. It's not my job to release the files. I said, that everybody in my cabinet said we would release, and I said at least on one occasion that I would release. If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? They haven't even given up on the John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King Jr. files. No matter how much success we had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, it's never enough for some people. We are about to achieve more in 6 months than any administration has achieved in over 100 years. And we have so much to do. We are saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. The left is imploding. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals. I like how voter fraud was first, thugs and criminals was last. Instead of spending months and months looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired documents. Radical left-inspired. Those communists just keep asking about Epstein. Karl Marx. That sounds like, you're asking about Epstein. That sounds a lot like Mao Zedong. That sounds like, you sound like Fidel Castro. Sounds like something Stalin would say. It's very Marxist of you to bring up Jeffrey Epstein and saying that I should release the files that we said we would release. Very Marxist, very Marxist. Where were we? Yes. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen. What the? Where is this coming from? The 2020 election was rigged and stolen. He's never going to let it go. And they tried to do the same in 24. That's what she is looking into as AG, and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. I don't know why I put hottest in quotations. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Epstein. Somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Forget about Epstein. Pam Bondi's great. It was all made up by the Democrats. The election was rigged. That's what we should be looking to instead. This was the first time I have ever seen Donald J. Trump ratioed on his own social media website, Truth Social. This is a website full of sycophants for Trump from top to bottom. From top to bottom, is nothing but MAGA lovers and MAGA
occurred.
supporters.
For travel and accommodation expenses, Dylan.
Whoa! 100 smackaroons, doubloons, dropped by David. Thank you so much, David. Anyway, before I got thrown off by that $100 donation, before Trump drops $200 to make me stop talking about the Epstein Files, this right here shows that there is real discontent, that it is not just on Elon Musk's platform on Twitter, that it's not just coming from some commentators, that there's real discontent from within the MAGA movement, that they think Trump is essentially letting the worst aspects of the swamp get away with it. They have hyper fixated on Epstein, and as the Democrats, as the protector of Epstein for so long, for him to just come out and say, forget about it. We're not releasing the files. It was all made up. Don't worry about it. We should look into the voter fraud instead and how the election was rigged. This other thing that was made up. But let's listen to some of the things that they've said in response. I picked four. I picked four ones. Picked four just to give you an idea. From Chrissy3607, hashtag Armor of God. We want the elite peds exposed. I'm saying peds because we're on YouTube. You promised us that. Pam promised us that. Cash promised us that. Now it's our fault because we want that promise fulfilled and call Pam out every time she lies. We're seeing MAGA supporters angry at being lied to. Is this not a lie? Okay, it's called right now. It's every time Pam lies. When will that anger transition from the DOJ head that follows Trump's beck and call to the person that's with, has the control of the beck and call? What else has she lied to us about? You are losing too many. This is from the real L. Milford. And this has 7,000 likes. This is like on nearly half the likes of Trump's post. You are losing too many in your base. Have an aide collect what we are saying all over social media. Pam Bondi has not been telling us the truth. Her story changed each time. I mean, it did change. They're just identifying what they can see with their eyes. Sir, you need to listen to us. Are you aware how long and hard many of us work to get to the truth? We refuse to give this a pass. For us, this will not go away. This is about the children. Oh gosh, Trump. They're calling upon the children. You can't stop helping the children, Trump. This is going to cost you so many supporters. This is from Dwayne Skies. I being one of them. This will cost Dwayne Skies as a Trump supporter. I have been to multiple rallies and even was there on J6. He was ready. He's ready to overturn everything. He was ready to overturn everything for Trump. This is one of the main things that needs fixed. Our two-tiered system of justice needs to end. We, the people, are tired of it. They can't be charged with child trafficking without there being perpetrators. Alan Dershowitz, who is accused of being one of them, has seen the list when he went to defend himself. We want the guilty to pay. It appears you or a loved one was in on it, and you want this to go away. You hear that? This got 4K likes under Trump's post when it only had 20K likes. And a lot of the other ones got more. And I counting likes is weird, but I mean, it's saying it has support. He's saying, Trump, you could be on the list. Trump, could you be on the list? Are you captured? What did you do on the plane? They're moving to that question. They're moving to the naughty question. They're moving to the question you cannot ask. And the more Trump diverts from this, the more Trump says it's phony, the more Trump says it's Hillary and the Democrats, the more I think, well, maybe it's not that Trump just knew the guy and was friends from him and he doesn't want to drag attention to it. Maybe there is something here. I mean, I didn't really treat it with any seriousness besides the fact that I wanted some level of transparency and Trump could have had some associations that were unseemly to the point where, but now when I'm saying, it was all the Democrats, it's all plot, and you don't need to see it, and move on, forget about it. Yeah, I mean, no wonder some of them are thinking, are you on it? We want the guilty to pay. It appears you or a loved one are on it. Everyone I know is upset about this, and it will kill MAGA, which we all have supported 100%. This is why we don't trust the government. No transparency unless it is something you want us to see. Please reconsider sincerely. From Curtis Jackson, more gaslighting. I thought you were above this. Oh yeah, Trump would never. You'll never hear the end of this if you do not instruct the complete release of the names of those in power in DC and Hollywood who exploitative children. Don't become part of the swamp that you fought so hard to defeat. So, with the MAGA world on fire, with Trump getting so much backlash, and with those who a lot of times also feed into the more conspiratorial sections of the internet now having to respond, many of them were left completely aghast. They didn't know what do I say? What do I do? Benny Johnson, who gets his calling card from the Russians, he didn't get his instructions yet from DC, and he was left completely speechless. Listen to him. He doesn't know what to do.
Okay. So President Trump has acknowledged that the Epstein Files exist here. President Trump has acknowledged.
By the way, that's another element to this. There's so much there that Trump doesn't even realize when he undercuts himself. Pam Bondi said in February that the Epstein Files were on her desk. Then we hear from the memo that the Epstein Files, there is no list, there is no this, and there is no that. Then Trump's out here. Okay, the Epstein Files are real. There is like crazy stuff, but it's crazy because it was made up by the Democrats, so forget about it. He doesn't realize the flip-floppy Trump is hurting himself.
That the files were written and that there is something there. He says that they were written, however, by his enemies and therefore will not be released. Whoa, what? That's new in this entire zeitgeist. This is something that is wildly interesting. And then he goes all
wildly interesting. Spineless, no values, stand for nothing but red money from the party and servile admiration.
Wildly interesting. And then he goes all in on supporting Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. No mention of Dan Bongino, where all of this, again, would sort of transpire.
Mind you, that these people went out there, and this was just on Morning Joe on MSNBC, and the Democrats are taking this clip, and they're spreading it around. There is so much footage that's going to be around in 2026 to try to depress Republican turnout when it comes to Democrats being able to take clips of them promising to release these files and releasing it in red areas. Because it's not as simple, sometimes it's not as hard as you need to make these people vote Democrat. Sometimes you need to just get them so so dissatisfied with how things are going that you just choose to stay home or choose to leave certain spots blank and just vote local.
Please do not let that story go.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is there's
that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Would you declassify the Epstein Files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
This isn't about Epstein or 9/11 or JFK or RFK. It is, but it isn't. It's about a bigger thing. If you're lying about that, you're lying about everything. Who's on the Epstein tapes, folks? Who's on those tapes? Who's in those black books? Why have they been hiding it?
And this is something Donald Trump has talked about. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. Everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
You have a right to know. How dare you? I thought you were my friend. Forget about it. It's fraudulent. It's all made up. It's gonna be hard to make that vibe shift work, isn't it? Not gonna be easy. Not gonna be simple. By the way, there is a clip of Donald Trump saying, I said, like, Trump saying at least on one occasion that he would release the Epstein files. He did say that. So in one instance, he would say, yeah, I'll release the Epstein files. But in another instance, he'll say, yeah, maybe, but, it could be phony. It could be phony. So it depended on the day. But what people remember from the campaign is this. They remember this because this is what they wanted to hear from Trump. And it was what they were hearing from much of Trump world, who were then brought into the White House.
But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. They do that for danger, too, because, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But, yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with.
I'd be inclined. I'd have no problem with that. Trump says, this is from last year, Trump says he will release the Epstein client list of elected. The Democrat elites are shaking right now. How many times are we going to hear libs of TikTok reference Epstein in the next 3 years? Now, when I say that this has hurt people, I'm just showing you some like text on a screen and I'm reading it and I'm making it in like a loud voice or like a slightly perturbed voice, whatever you want to call it. I want you to hear it in their own voice and how Trump's betrayal is affecting those on the ground. In fact, here is a guy named Travis who calls into the Glenn Beck show, one of those who asked those in Trump's cabinet to release the Epstein files, and they told Glenn that they would. Here is Travis, one of his viewers, calling in tears over the lack of release of the files.
We go to Travis in South Dakota. Hello, Travis.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, Jason. I tell you what, guys, I feel really betrayed and I feel really, really angry. We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter. Are you guys still talking about this? Seriously? And yet he still talks about the 2020 election fraud. He talks about the Hunter Biden laptop. He talks about all this stuff from 5-6 years ago, and he tells us to move on from the Epstein trial or the Epstein case. People like me will not stop talking about this. I feel so betrayed and so angry. This is not what I voted for. If we do not stand up for the children of this country, we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing. And I tell you what, I've also lost a lot of respect for a lot of people that are prominent figures in this country because they are saying, you know what, this doesn't matter. Like Carrie Lake came out on Saturday. She's like, you know what really matters is election fraud and post-election fraud. It's like, you know what, the children of this country really, really matter. How can we just sweep them under the rug and not care? Move on, America, move on.
Travis, thank you for calling. Let me ask you, is there anything that could be said that would make you go, okay, that's as good as it's going to get for here?
I want transparency and I want justice. All them children, all those families, everything they went through, I don't want to know their names. I pray that God would be with them and give them some sort of peace if they could ever get it. I want transparency and I want justice.
Is there anything that anyone could produce to show you and have you go, okay, Epstein is dead, Gladwell is in prison, and that's the only justice you're going to be able to get?
I want evidence. Quit telling us that, oh, well, he killed himself and we saw everything. We have the information. By the way, it doesn't exist. Show us the information. Make me believe. Help me believe that he killed himself. Help me believe that maybe you don't have any evidence against people. Then show us that stuff. I do not trust the government at all, and yet they expect me to take their word for it. I'm sorry, you lost your credibility a long time ago, government. You need to start gaining the trust of these American people back. And I really hope and pray that they can at least provide some sort of evidence.
How do you prove the negative, Travis? See, that's where I'm at. I think I'm right where you are. I'm beyond. I don't have a horse in this race. What I have is common sense.
I don't have a horse in this race. Why wouldn't you have a horse in this race? You're one of the biggest, like, super Christian political commentators. You're Glenn Beck.
A curd is a curd.
Your whole thing should be, yes, we go after
finally found
the
effective
horrible
wedge issue.
abusers. That's your horse. Transparency, government transparency. That's your horse. The thing you wanted of the Biden administration, the thing you wanted and demanded of the Obama administration, the thing you wanted of the
People
Clinton
voted for a
administration,
spectacle.
but refused to
He just
demand
needs
here.
to institute public Luna livings, and they'll be fine again.
People voted for this spectacle. He just needs to institute public unalivings and they'll be fine again. My goodness. Always reason. Thank you for the 50 Danish kroner. And pre-ban for Loco. Thank you for the $5. We finally found an effective wedge issue. This is something that I don't think is going away in the near future. I thought that today's big Monday Ukraine announcement might change the tenor of the conversation. I was actually a little concerned that if Trump did take any like big avenue to keep weapons going to Ukraine, for example, if he pulled from the presidential drawdown authority significantly and sent over aid, that it would create a backlash that we could see another flip-flop from. But no, it seems like the entirety of MAGA world is almost like not, I don't want to say completely ignored the $10 billion weapons deal and the new deadline or any of the shifts that are going on and Keith Kellogg's visit with the Ukrainians and President Zelensky's most recent phone call with Trump. But Epstein is tinting everything every time they bring up something else, like the auto pen scandal. I don't know if you guys saw this, but right now there is so many content creators talking about the auto pen scandal. Like let me show you this. Libs of TikTok. Right before they said Democrats will shake in their boots when we get these files out. Now Trump says forget about it. Biden's pardons of the January 6th committee were signed by AutoPen at the direction of an assistant. All AutoPen pardons all null and void because Cat Turd wants to see everybody on the J6 committee go to prison. Time to void the AutoPen's pardons and arrest the corrupt. Holy F, the pardons were fake. So when they say the pardons were fake, to be clear, I don't know if you guys have ever filled out a document online. There's something called AutoPen where you click and you type out your signature and it places the signature. The scandal is that the Biden administration may have used AutoPen while signing documents, including possibly the AutoPen pardons of some people. That's the scandal. In comparison to the most notorious sex pest in the world, having the president come out and say, Clinton's made it up to all the files, forget about it. This is what they're choosing to focus on. When before it was all the Democrats are covering it up, the deep state we need to crusade against. What was the crusade for? What was the MAGA movement for? Was it all just a personal fawning project to help Donald Trump's profile? Or was it something that was meant to create a future for their children, for family values, for whatever they wanted? But something that united a lot of those in the base was that people like this, those who are so powerful but have a two-tier system of justice, like that man said, that they can get away from retribution, and that the powerful politicians amongst us who engage in degenerate practices can be held to account in the same way that the common street thug can be held to account. That there was something there, it's not, I'm not saying that it was ever really like a movement I bought into, that Trump cared about it. I never thought Trump cared. To me, this is Trump behaving as I expected him to behave. I never expected him to behave that way. But many people, from the reaction that they're getting, did feel that way. And the best opposition Trump's sycophants can offer, the best opposition that Trump's propagandists can offer right now is AutoPen, Biden, Russia hoax, the election was rigged, voter fraud, it's just whatever they can to shift the focus from the fact that MAGA is on fire right now over this. They are on fire. Their supporters are in tears over the fact that they now are viewing it like, is our government, the government now led by Donald J. Trump, willing to stick its neck out for the elite who abuse children because either he's on the list, he knows somebody on the list. It's going to be hard for people just to flip the last like 8 years of information they've taken from Epstein, especially when everybody in Trump's cabinet from top to bottom are people who push those same narratives. And the more Trump struggles on this, the more, even though, again, my view is always the most I would expect to come out of it would be like Trump was friendly with Epstein, went to some parties, maybe knew some people were doing some degenerate stuff, and like was like, hey, it's New York. I'm a New York socialite. And he just accepted the degeneracy and maybe probably didn't even engage in that. Like, I don't know, right? That would be my immediate inclination, right? If I was to guess. But the more he acts like this, the more my suspicion builds. I still lean towards the former, but it won't be crazy for many to lean towards the latter. But despite that, some caught between two worlds have chosen the loving arms of their father. Here's Republican Dave Smith at right white trash. Listen up, R slurs. The boss asked everyone to cut the shit with Epstein. So cut it. Is it going to change any of your lives if you find out some celebrity or politician effed a 16-year-old on Lolita Island? It's not. So shut up and stop whining already. Wah, the files. Shut up. You're not getting them. So get over it. Guy has been absolutely killing it for 6 months now. He's got more done than any president in our lifetime. And you assholes are whining about this stupid crap? Bunch of clowns and brokies. Haha, you're poor. Dude, crying about this all the way past their pay grade. Guy got shot once and almost again for you morons. Shut up and let him do his job. 1.1 thousand replies, 15 likes. You don't know how hard it is to get a ratio this decisive. Like, you would think more people would just accidentally hit the like button. But that is a record. In some way, it must be a record. Others are trying to find some explanation, whatever explanation they can, as to why Trump isn't releasing the files. Popular podcaster Tim Dillon is suggesting that if he did release the files, the elites would end his life. They'd kill him. I quote, I think Trump knows that they'll kill him. Do you think it doesn't cross his mind that all these people have died? Do you think that doesn't enter into his mind? And right-wing clipper Colin Rugg reposted it. Okay, you're president of the United States. I thought we were supposed to be like, hey, this is the dude who almost took a bullet. He'll die for us. But then when it comes to the kids that are being abused, nah, not them, though. No. Just the thing that gives him more power, he'll die for. But not when it comes to the kids. Look, come on. He's the president of the United States. Scott Adams probably put out one of the more pathetic limp-wristed responses. Must be juicy and dangerous stuff in those files. Some juicy and dangerous stuff. But I don't feel the need to be a backseat driver on this topic. 4 leaders I trust said to let it go. They want what is best for America, and they have their reasons. I don't need to check their work. You absolute bootlicker. You are licking the
MAGA
crud
project
from
is a
beneath the
hate
crevices.
project. They live cruelty vicariously through Trump. This was their best chance to hurt famous people, and he's snubbing them.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it might be that. I think a lot of it is that they do feel some anger at the tier two tier system of justice, and to see Epstein as an example of avoiding that with wealth and power. I think that the Epstein case is a wild case, and people have a natural curiosity about it due to the degenerate details of it and how many high-profile politicians and powerful people and business people as a financier that he was kind of in bed with, that people have a natural attachment to it. They have attachment to wanting to know what's in there. There's a lot of mystique around it. And people do not want their leaders to be diddlers. And I agree with that. And I think that the American public should know that their leaders are not diddlers. The perception, without a guilty conviction, of Matt Gaetz possibly being a diddler was enough to derail his DOJ nomination. So the American public have one bipartisan position, and it's anti-diddle. And this is something that doesn't overlap with that bipartisan consensus. See, you want to know what other sides would just do when it comes to Epstein? They just wouldn't talk about it. If they're in bed with Epstein, they don't talk about it, don't bring it up, it is the unmentionable. But because those he brought into office talked about Epstein all the time, because Trump said he would, because of the type of base and who he has attracted to support him, it's not that easy. Especially since you're the ones who continue to talk about it. It's your big mouth that is fanning these flames, as Epstein says in chat. Fanning these flames. But by the way, describing juicy, we're talking about a notorious pest here, okay, who did horrible things with underage people. I would not use the descriptor word juicy, Scott Adams, okay? I would stay away from that descriptor. Some others, though, have been clear-headed since this when it comes to what the Epstein case meant to them, and they have decided that this is the final straw. It's hard to say how many that this is going to be the final straw for, and it's hard to say how many are going to say it's the final straw and then flip back around once Trump, releases a compilation of "I pwned a liberal, Hillary," more like stupidery, and then they're like, got him, little Marco, But here is a supporter burning their MAGA hat, which got 114,000 likes, 28.7 million views over the Epstein cover-up. We're going to turn off the music because of copyright purposes. But yeah, they pour the gasoline on it. They light their "Make America Great Again" hat on fire. And this is a righty account, to say the least. Christ is king. This is a man who is in the movement and now is no longer in the movement. How many of those there will be, I honestly do not know. But what I can tell you is that it's getting much more attention than Donald Trump would like, with a massive escalation in Googles for Trump Epstein. Massive escalation. We'll read those numbers in a second from Etten, Etten from CNN. But before that, I just wanted to make a quick deviation and just say, for those of you curious what the head of TPUSA is saying about this, after talking about the need to release the Epstein files before, he's now saying because Trump said it's over, he's done talking about it. Here's what he said.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it, that's fine.
To be clear, Trump's statement on it was the files are fake. It's made by Hillary. Forget about it. Aren't you my friend? And Charlie said, I am your friend. I am your friend. Sure, I'll stop talking. Please, I'll stop. He stops talking about it when? Not when it's no longer an interesting story. Not because all the facts have been clearly laid out and we all now know the truth. He stops talking about it when Trump says to stop talking about it. Lap dog. Lap dog. Lap dog. RT, if you believe real Donald Trump should order a full investigation into Epstein's illegal trafficking for the last 30 years and get answers. I'm done talking about Epstein. The American public are not forgetting, and in fact, I think even some more are learning. Listen to these numbers. These are massive. A massive amount of public interest in this. And this is something that has basically been conjured up by Pam Bondi and those under Trump continuing to engage on this. And Trump not knowing how to deal with the press when he's asked about Epstein. Reacting in such a hostile measure. Like, why you keep asking me about this? We're right now, it's, stuff's going on right now in Texas. Why are you asking me about the Epstein files the same day we release information on the Epstein files? When you react that way, You're just going to create public interest, because when people sense a cover up, they sense they don't want you looking at something. They obviously go looking for it. That's why banned media ends up getting more attention than if it wasn't banned in many instances. Listen to these numbers. Staggering.
I am wondering, how much interest is there in the so-called Epstein Files?
Well, if my buddy Vin from Jersey is any sign, there's a lot of interest. He won't shut up about it, but he's not the only one who won't keep quiet about it. What are we talking about here? Why don't we take a look at Google searches for Jeffrey Epstein? Take a look at this. Today versus a week ago. Up like a rocket, up 1,900%. My goodness gracious. And get this, it is currently the top term topic being searched alongside Donald Trump today. If Donald Trump, who is begging, asking his supporters to drop it, he is not getting his wish whatsoever. His support.
Can we stop calling it the Epstein Files and instead call it the Pedo Files?
No, because I'd like to keep my monetization, but I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you for the $5, Ignis.
Supporters are not dropping it. Interest in this story is at basically an all-time high. And of course, this is such an interesting story because it is one that unites different parts of the far right. It's one of the few stories that actually brings together folks like Steve Bannon and Elon Musk. They all are wondering what the heck is going on here. And at this particular point, Donald Trump has not figured out a way to solve this problem and quell the problem on the right side of his base.
So put this interest into perspective when you compare it to other news stories this week.
Yeah, okay. So we're talking about right now Google searches for Epstein. What about some other big stories this week? You know, take a look here. Again, we're looking at Google searches today. Get this. Searches for Epstein have been, get this, 4 times higher than they are for Grok. Of course, Grok, the whole thing, that, of course, is part of X, went off on its own, the AI, and started throwing out anti-Semitic stuff, talking about Hitler and all that jazz. But interest far higher for this particular topic than there is.
By the way, to describe anything as Hitler and all that jazz is not a good sign for whatever is being referred to.
Far higher for this particular topic than there is, in fact, for Grok. Much higher for, of course, Epstein. And then for tariffs, which, of course, have very much been in the news. Get this. Searches for Epstein today have been 7.6 times higher. So interest for the Jeffrey Epstein story through the roof, Jessica.
And what's the feeling around if Trump will actually release any of these, any more information, any more files this year?
Yeah, so, you know, we can go with the conventional wisdom. We can look at the betting markets, and I think this is part of what's going on, is that a lot of folks are saying, you know what, he's not going to release any more files. The Trump administration's not going to release any more files. Get this, Trump releasing more Epstein files in 2025, according to the betting markets. You go 2 months ago, it was 40%. You go a month ago, it was 39%. Now it is just 21%. So the MAGA base is hoping that there'll be more files to be released. But at this particular point, neither they nor the betting markets, in fact, believe there'll be any more files to be released. And that, of course, is a problem for Donald Trump based upon what we've seen from the MAGA base over the last 24, 48, and 72 hours.
Yeah.
For anybody who's still sitting on the 21%, I'd imagine the only reason you'd be sitting on that 21% is assuming that the backlash from the massive amount of public interest in the story to the huge divides it's creating within the right, and that everybody just saying stop talking about it doesn't really seem to be working outside of, you know, their toy soldier boys that go out there and put out whatever the party line is. I'd imagine that 21% is bet upon the backlash will be so immense that they'll have to release more. That they'll feel that they don't want the fundraising numbers and they don't want the midterm turnout to actually suffer because of this crisis of their own creation. Either way, Trump's running away from Epstein like the man is still alive. Don't forget to like everyone, helps the stream. That is true. When you like the stream, that interaction does help me a little bit in the algo. For anybody watching this on YouTube.